Hello, and welcome to POMA Does, a podcast produced by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. We provide a voice for osteopathic medicine and share insights on issues important to osteopathic physicians, residents, and students, as well as those who embrace the osteopathic philosophy. POMA's mission is to promote the distinctive philosophy and practice of osteopathic medicine for our patients, our members, and the communities we serve. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the POMA Does podcast series sponsored by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. I'm Dr. Kathleen McGonigle, DO. I'm a graduate of LECOM Erie class of 2001. I'm a board-certified physician in family medicine and with a CAQ in sports medicine. I'm also the POMA District 8 Regional Trustee and currently faculty with the Osteopathic Principles and Practice Director at LECOM at Seton Hill campus in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Today, we are going to be exploring a topic about non-traditional routes to becoming a DO, and we have some really wonderful guests with us today. DiAngelis, Kevin Hauns, and Aaron Vanderberg. And we thank them for joining us today. One of the strengths of the osteopathic profession is the diversity of our experiences as physicians we bring into medicine. And the osteopathic profession is very known for that. Not everyone follows the same timeline and pathline to becoming a DO, and some begin their other careers and then decide to join the osteopathic profession. Some return to school later on in life, and we want to explore that today and some ideas for unexpected paths to becoming a DO. So welcome our guests. You want to introduce yourselves? That'd be great.
Hi there, I'm DiAngelis. I'm a current fourth-year student at the Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine at Seton Hill, preparing for graduation this month. I recently matched into the orthopedic surgery residency at UPMC Central PA in Harrisburg, and I'm greatly looking forward to that. I worked as a physician assistant in orthopedic surgery before making the decision to return back to medical school, so I'm excited to return to the specialty.
Hi, my name is Kevin Hauns. I'm class of 2027 from Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine in Philadelphia. I am currently starting my fourth year in about a week, and my path has been very interesting. I got a PhD in molecular and cellular biology, and then I went into the Army and made vaccines for them and became the company commander of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, biggest biomedical research unit within all of the Department of Defense. And from there, my love for taking care of soldiers really grew. And so I hope to go into internal medicine / psychiatry, dual residency, or psychiatry. Thanks for having me.
Hello, my name is Aaron Vanderberg. I'm a second-year medical student at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine at Seton Hill. I am a physician assistant and graduated in 2016 from the military's Inter-Service Physician Assistant Program, the IPAP program in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. My first duty assignment as an Army physician assistant was with an Air Defense Artillery Battalion in the Republic of South Korea. I spent several years there where I practiced primary care, occupation medicine, and urgent care medicine. From there, I PCS to Fort Hood, Texas, where I was an aeromedical physician assistant, where I managed the health and welfare of aviators, the crew, and everyone who supported there. I was also the aeromedical supervisor of a flight ambulance company as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. This will be exciting to hear about your backgrounds. So one of the first things maybe our viewers might be thinking about is what drew you to medicine as a field as, initially, and then specifically what drew you to osteopathic medicine?
Well, I'll go first on that part. It's actually a long trail on there. I've been in medicine since 2010, but my initial push was talking to my now wife, Regina. We've been married for 16 years, and I was very frustrated in the financial realm where although I was making good money, I didn't have any job satisfaction. And then we were talking, and we made a decision for me to go get my physician assistant master's degree, and then from there go through the Army. How I got into osteopathic medicine actually is from a prior LECOM grad. He graduated class of 2018, Andy Glenn. He was my supervising physician when I was at Fort Hood, my first one at 615th Aviation Sport Battalion, and he introduced me to osteopathic medicine. It was a great experience within there because he was a new officer and I was a fairly seasoned officer, and I would come to him with patients who had chronic musculoskeletal complaints or migraines, and he was showing me just a completely different world about how to manage these patients other than medications and referrals. So he really took me under his wing and it basically taught me the ropes, and he taught me a lot about just osteopathic manipulation medicine, and I enjoyed it ever since.
That's awesome.
My path was not medicine oriented. I'm a molecular and cellular guy. I like pathways and I like developing vaccines. I'm trained as a vaccinia virologist virologist. And so in the Army, I was recruited there to make a malaria vaccine for them. And a couple of years ago, my malaria vaccine got patented. That I had the opportunity, as an Army microbiologist, there's not many command opportunities. And I was selected for command. And it was an amazing experience to take care of soldiers. What was interesting, it was at the very beginning of COVID, there was a lot of things that were unmasked that COVID opened up for us. And so I was intimately involved in soldiers' healthcare and part of their healthcare team. It was very different than the Army world that I knew of, developing vaccines and writing grants. And so when I was finished with my command time, I talked to my boss, who's actually a physician, an MD. He suggested I go to medical school and I think about the DO route. And I hadn't heard about becoming an osteopathic physician. I didn't know anything about it. But he said something that was interesting to me. He said, you think like a DO. And I really looked at the tenets, and really what the first tenet really resonated with me, the mind, body, spirit connection. And that's how I saw soldiers. If I can get all three of those points, those tenets together, I can make a soldier whole. I've seen it too many times where a soldier can falter in one aspect. And once you reassemble them into this triad, they become that soldier that they wanted to be and the soldier I knew they could be. And so after my command time, I talked with him and I started this wonderful journey. And I really like osteopathic medicine because, from a psychiatric aspect, how can we start to help soldiers, and this is a lot in the world, with, psychiatric issues without always giving so much medications? Can we use, cranial osteopathy? Can we use other types of manipulative techniques in order to help soldiers and civilians?
So I entered into the world of medicine because my mother got me interested in it. She was a nurse anesthetist, and I shadowed her one day at work. And I happened to look over the curtain during surgery, which is actually orthopedic surgery. And I noticed that I liked what the PA and what the physician were doing a little bit more than what she was doing. She didn't like that as much, but I found great interest in that. So I pursued an accelerated physician assistant program at Seton Hill University. And after the 5 years of school there, I joined an orthopedic surgery practice that was private, located near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. About 80% of the attendings that I work with are osteopathic physicians, and I got used to just their method of thinking. And a lot of my attendings also noticed that I had too much of an interest in the body and its functions. So they really recommended that I attend an osteopathic school. Throughout my entire athletic career, I was obsessed with making sure that I was balanced. I wasn't, too tight in one hamstring versus the other. I wasn't wearing down one shoulder more than the other. So I was obsessed with trying to make sure that I had my body functioning as highly as it could and using itself to promote those healing powers. The reason I decided to go back to medical school was just I found that I woke up more mornings wishing I was doing more than the mornings that I didn't. And that's when I decided to make the return to osteopathic medicine, specifically at LECOM at Seton Hill. I was already familiar with their program, so I was highly interested in it as I've already interacted with a lot of their members.
That's wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. One of the next things I was thinking about as you were all talking, and now that you've been welcomed into the osteopathic family, is there any insights you have? How was your transition from going to your former life into the osteopathic medical school training? Did you have any challenges or insights in that transition period, or you might still be transitioning?
So this was a very large topic during a lot of my residency interviews. Working as a physician assistant, I got to, have a good income. I was doing a lot of good patient care. I was involved in surgery. I was in the clinic. I got to do procedures. I got to do a lot during surgery. And most would question why I would want to leave that. And that was a big challenge, overcoming the discomfort of leaving that. It's not a guarantee that you end up in the specialty that you think you want to work in. And for me to leave something that I loved for the unknown was one of the biggest challenges.
One of the biggest challenges for me going from being an Army officer to being a student, I would say was humbling to sit there in a class. I remember one professor during microbiology and immunology would look back and look at me as like, is that right about vaccinia virology? I'm like, listen, I'm just a student here. So it was humbling. The first time you go into an osteopathic lab and having to take off your shirt in front of these strangers at PCOM the first 2 weeks, I had a smile on my face because it reminded me of the military. You just get uncomfortable and then you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so it was fun. Now finishing my third year in, clinical rotations, there's always something new and exciting and something to learn.
Kevin said it well. Being in the military, you're comfortable being uncomfortable. I was very eager to jump back into school because, again, I was introduced to osteopathic medicine through my supervising physician, and I just wanted to learn more on that side. It is definitely a little strange, at least from my side, because I've been in practice for almost last 10 years. So when I did my summer rotations, I would be with like a second or a third year resident, and they would look over their shoulder and they would go, "Hey, is that right? You are, but that's not my role. I'm here to learn from you." It's not the other way around. So there's a lot of interesting situations you have, at least coming from the more seasoned side, but coming back to school, it was just amazing with them.
That's awesome. And how about, what do you guys think about this transition, like for your own support systems? Like, do you have family, like you mentioned already? How was this transition on them?
The transition, at least for me, was a little rough in the first year. My wife was starting a new business at the time. We own another business as well, so I was managing that and then taking care of the kids and making sure that they're adjusted to their school. So there's a lot of moving pieces within there. But one of the nice things, like with it being in the military, is that you move around a lot. You have a lot of training situations, and we're just very blessed where our family can just adjust to these things quickly. So we all got into our grooves and kept on moving.
I would say it was hard and easy. So my wife and I have been married for 20 years. I don't think I could do this without her. It wouldn't have been possible. My kids now are 17 and 15. My son and I, he started high school right when I started medical school, and my daughter is a sophomore in high school. So it's been a transition. The Army has helped. You don't know what you're going to get the next day. And so it was hard. We adjust, and we're thriving now.
So my wife and I had actually just started our relationship together before I returned to medical school, and we ended up getting married and having our first child all during medical school. My family is the biggest support system for me, and everything I do during school, during rotations, and preparing for residency, it's very easy to do when you have that kind of motivation.
Great. I'm glad you guys all had a nice support system to help you through that. Just a different time. I think entering medical school by itself is a transition for everybody, let alone if you're changing gears from your previous profession or adjusting to add on to your previous experience, basically. Well, that's great. How does your background that you went through, do you think that's influenced how you look at patient care and leadership in your roles where you're at in your training?
So I definitely think it's influenced my patient care just because I've already gotten to witness a little bit of what patients go through. It's easy to read out of a book and think that you know everything about a disease or a condition until you see a patient that's actually going through it. And when you have people who have suffered from certain things and know what life is like outside of that room that you're seeing them in, it gives you a lot more perspective. And, you think about their home life, their relationships, their occupation, gives you a lot more insight.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of insight you can gain, at least when I had from my prior military and medical experience within there. Other than just doing our classes and just being a second year medical student, I haven't had a chance to use those just yet. But when I go into rotations and also further on into residency, when you see patients, you see them on their best days. You also see them on their worst days, and you learn to be present where they're at the time. And I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations, either when I was managing and supervising 30 medics, or if I'm talking about a cancer diagnosis with a patient, where it just kind of like humbles you in the sense that from my experiences in the military and patient care, it's been an absolute blessing in there. And I'm just looking forward to bringing what I've learned in how to interact with people and just tying in the tenets of osteopathic and just marrying them so nicely so I can help them out, just people in the future.
For me, I had no medical background. When I look, during my third year, I look at patients as a cellular and molecular responses. And what's been interesting about rotations for me is I'm actually looking at a whole person and how different organ systems and they all work together. I thought was overwhelming at first, but it became to be very, as a PhD, our knowledge is like narrow but deep. Whereas as I go through medical school, medicine is very broad. It's very cool just to see how all these organ systems and system pathologies, physiology all work together in this molecular biology that I understand and I feel comfortable with. So kudos to medical school for getting me out of my comfort zone and clinical rotations and some of these preceptors that push me beyond what I think I can understand. But then the next day, like, hey, I'm starting to get this.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your insight. So I have a couple of other questions for you. Do you feel that non-traditional students bring a unique strength into not only medicine, but osteopathic medicine? Or what are your thoughts on if somebody's thinking about it who is a non-traditional student, could you encourage them or give them some information about how they could benefit our profession?
I've been thinking about this. My kids have been watching me study. So for the first 2 years, I've been in Philadelphia and I come back home to Maryland. My wife and I didn't want to disturb, high school for them. And so most of my military career, I've been a geographic bachelor. But, this third year, I've been able to to come back home to Maryland and do my rotations here. My kids have been watching me. What's interesting is both of them expressed an interest in going to medicine. I've been thinking about this a lot. Do they want to go into allopathic medicine or osteopathic medicine? And I think what's cool about whatever they choose, osteopathic medicine really lends itself to like this. You encompass allopathic, medicine, but then you have this chairperson of the osteopathic school I've talked to. Osteopathic medicine is like a weapon in your arsenal that you get to have that MDs don't really get to have. I can't tell you how many times on Fridays I have older friends being older, right? They come in like, hey, I got back pain, I got this pain, and I'm able to fix that, right? Like they walk out of their house, they have their shopping cart sign, and all of a sudden they're walking erect. So being a non-traditional student in osteopathic medicine really makes sense to me because you are just focused on the books. You have real world experiences. You have friends that you actually can experiment on, for me at least. And so that's what's been refreshing about osteopathic medicine.
In regards to the non-traditional students, we have a very full life. I'm in my 40s. A lot of the people I'm with are closer to half my age. I'm more in the age group of the staff that are here. So just having an abundance of life before entering into medical school, it just kind of opens your world in there. Although she couldn't make it today, Lauren had a good saying on there. She's saying, if you look at a lot of the students here, they seem so stressed, but when you have your wife and your children and you're able to go home, you're able to decompress, you look so happy. You seem so grounded because it goes just beyond just focusing in class and focusing within there. You're able to get yourself centered, you're able to get yourself grounded, and you're able to show appreciation where it needs to be. Another part, it is a little bit of a cheat code in the sense that we know significantly a lot more coming into it. So I would have a lot of conversations with other students about different medical topics, or even osteopathic medicine. I would teach a small group weekly on different techniques so that they would be competent for any tests that they would have within there. But I can tell you that, having a family, having a way to ground yourself is wonderful.
So I would agree with a lot of what both Kevin and Aaron said about, having a family. Usually non-traditional people have already started their life in another occupation or another realm. So they've already gotten a lot of steps that most of those students that don't go the non-traditional route aren't even thinking of. And it is a good way to have a good ground and stress relief and, like I said earlier, motivation to work hard and make it all worth it. I would advise anyone that is a non-traditional student that is debating the journey is to just simply go for it and give it all there is. A lot of the advantage that I felt when I went to school is that I already worked a job and I knew what it was like to sit down and put anywhere from 8 to 12 hours into a day towards something that I'm focused on. And I found that to be one of the biggest strengths. Is just, this was my job. This is what I'm going to be good at. This is what I'm going to put my time into. There's no other question about it. To anyone who's debating that journey also is, if you find yourself wishing that you were doing more days than wishing you aren't, then you should just go for it.
Great. Thank you. And on that same line, maybe Aaron and Kevin, what are your thoughts about any advice that you'd want to give other non-traditional students who are thinking about this path? Anything you want to share with them?
There's at least one former military PA that goes to the LECOM every year through the Accelerated Physician Assistant Program, the APAP program. And I recommend anyone who has the opportunity to take advantage of it. It's a wonderful program. Definitely the timeline's truncated, being a 3-year program. And there's some unique challenges that go with it, but it's a very rewarding program. And you're very competitive when you go for residencies, from what I've seen from my previous classmates. But for everyone else, if you're interested in it, just like Derek said, if you're not ready to attend, if you have to take some classes, get ready for the NCATs, make it your job and just work hard for that. And then once you pass the next line, you just go to medical school and you just make it your job. And then you put your 12, 14, 16-hour days you need to do that, burn the candle at both ends, and you definitely will be rewarded for your efforts.
I have to agree with Eric and Aaron here. Here's my advice. You've already done hard work. I think medical school, if you had a career, medical school is significantly easier in comparison to real life, right? All you have to do is study. You may have a family, you may have kids, but you have allocated time for your family life and work balance. If you're able to go to medical school, do it. I tell you, I thought when I first started, like I've been out of school. I got my graduate degree in 2008 and then I didn't go to school until 2023, right? I was a little nervous. I am so glad when I went to school and all I had to do is I looked around and like all I get to do is just sit around and learn. And it was so nice because you've had the discipline to maintain a job, to maintain a family. Now you just apply it to school. And I'm telling you, if you're on the fence, just do it.
Great. So another thing I was thinking about when I was preparing for this episode was is there any misconceptions you want to clear up? Like as a non-traditional student, do you get that this must be easy for you or other things like that from other people? Like, what are any misconceptions you want to clear up for people?
I'll jump off of what Aaron said earlier about being a physician assistant, especially returning to school. A lot of my friends would sit there and say like, well, you already know this. And it's like, that doesn't mean I'm not going to sit there and try to refine it. It doesn't mean I'm not pushing myself harder. It's like, yes, I may know a little bit about something, but if I can't tell you everything about it, don't assume that I know it already. And it still offers a great opportunity to help teach when I can. But there's other things that other students have experienced that are giving them advantages, even if it's just in basic sciences, that I still learn from them. So everyone in that journey is going through it together. So might as well make friends.
I agree upon there. Being a physician assistant, in terms of what you're learning in class, you do have a lot of wide knowledge that's shallow. You don't get the granularity that you would get like within a medical school. So although I know a little bit on a lot of topics, I can tell you that you need to put in your time and effort. So there's something that the other classmates don't necessarily appreciate. They just think you know it all on that side. But when you treat this like a job and you make it your 12-hour days and you just focus on what you need to do, it just kind of clicks within there. And you don't necessarily have to deal with a lot of the issues when you are treating this lackadaisically.
I'll tell you a funnier perspective. When I walk into a patient's room, they think I'm an attending because I have gray hair everywhere. And the first thing, every time I walk in, is I say, hi, I'm Kevin Hauns. I'm a third-year medical student. I want to make sure that I set expectations for them. And anytime I meet an attending, I always say that I am a third-year medical student. Don't be fooled by gray hairs. These are from the Army. So
it's funny. I say the same thing about the lack of hair on my head.
Well, they're great. What are some other things about what you do for your work-life balance, your resilience, keep yourself healthy? Is there any things that you keep on track yourself to keep yourself centered?
So during school, during rotations, and hopefully during residency, I spend a lot of time, especially first thing in the morning, trying to do some sort of exercise and get a really good meal to start the day. And I would say that a good start to the day is monumental because if you already start down the right path, it's a little bit easier to follow. If you wake up rushed, if you wake up stressed, I think the whole day is just going to follow that. So I focus a lot on my morning wellness. Beyond that, I like to get outside. I love to get fresh air, see bright colors rather than just a black and white textbook or computer all day. And I love spending time with my family. Doing anything with them is fun.
I have to say, this is probably the best work-life balance I've had in a long time. When I was in the military, it was 14 to 16-hour days. There was a time when I was in South Korea, it would be 18-hour days. And that was due to just different things that were happening geopolitically at the time. But I get to go home. I don't have to worry about patient charts. I don't have to worry about coding and billing. I just get to be present with my family. So that's how I ground myself.
For me, I start with partition, right? When I'm studying, I'm locked into learning. If I'm at the hospital, then I'm locked in there. But when I leave, I really have to actively tell myself I'm done with that. And when I'm with my family, that I stay in that moment and I'm present with them. One of the things that's really good for me is I like to drive. So I grab my dogs and we get into the truck and we just drive along the freeway and I just turn on some music, just zoning out for, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then getting back to either being husband or wife or studying, right? So just knowing and actively picking what I'm going to do and being present in that moment.
What kind of dog do you have?
My daughter has a Cavapoo, St. Charles Cavalier Poodle mix, and then my wife has a Beagle Schnauzer, but both of those dogs gravitate towards me, so I love those guys.
Yeah, I run around chasing 3 kids, so that's enough. I don't need any other pets in the house.
Awesome. Well, one of the things I was thinking about is any advice that you wish you would have gotten in the whole process to get you to where you are today?
I would say that the biggest piece of advice I wish I would have gotten is to just have faith in yourself. Throughout the journey of entering medical school, I had an immense amount of pressure because I heard constant talk of, do you know how hard it is to get into orthopedic surgery? Do you know how hard it is to do this or that? And I let that weigh a little bit too much on myself, even when I was kind of doing the right things to match into orthopedic surgery residency. And if you are doing the right things and you're pushing yourself, but not to the point of self-harm, I think that's a big thing, is just have faith in yourself?
It's an interesting topic. It's easier said than done, but I wish I could have told myself to just breathe. Just breathe. You've got to medical school. You made it to first year. You made it to second year. I find to be third year the most difficult, but you're making it. And there are people helping you to make it, right? And so don't put so much pressure on yourself and just breathe and relax. The other thing is really focus on your pathology and your physiology, right? Really understand mechanisms. And if you do that, these test questions, board exams, pimping questions will become infinitely easier.
For me, it's just always to remember what hard work and determination will get you. I can't tell you either through the businesses that we run or just through the military in general, how much having like a defeatist mindset can give you, where it'll stop you from your career advancements. It'll stop you from achieving what you would like to do. And it could also stop you from the relationships that you want to have. So I would tell myself that if you want it, you have to make a decision. You need to work hard for it. And at the end, it's just going to all work out. Everything's going to just kind of go into place and the door will open. But you need to have the effort, you need to have the focus, and you need the intention.
We've covered a lot of ground today. Is there any closing thoughts that any of you have that you'd want to mention?
Sure. One thing that I actually do look back at whenever I do have some questions for myself in terms of my path of becoming an osteopathic physician, it's actually a quote from A. Distill, and it's to find health should be the object of any doctor. Anyone can find disease. When I was a PA, I found disease. When I was introduced to osteopathy, I was introduced to finding health. And although I didn't hear about this quote until I came to medical school, it's something that just kind of sticks with me. And I hope to carry it and let it, push me forward as I continue my practice.
For me, I would say be willing to ask for help. Whether you're non-traditional or you're a traditional student, once you enter medical school, people want you to succeed. So you may be nervous, you may be embarrassed. Just ask the question. People are here to help, regardless of they are an attending or the resident or even a medical student or any other, medical provider. Just to ask. They want to impart knowledge and you want to learn. So that's the mindset I have. I'm humble and I ask because I'm curious and I want to provide the best patient care that I can.
I'd like to leave any listeners with the comment of you're going to have healing hands that people trust and people believe in you, and you're going to see the results of the hard work that you're thinking of and doing right now. And if you're debating of making that journey, I can guarantee you that if you have that faith in yourself and you put yourself forward, that your hands will become powerful in ways beyond what you're comprehending at this time. And it unfortunately requires that journey for you to finally see that.
Oh, that's awesome. For all of the three of you, I really appreciate especially those last insights are excellent. Thank you. And I'm glad I was part of your podcast today. I, again, want to thank you all individually, Aaron, Derek, and Kevin, for joining us and actually taking the time and sharing your journeys and your experiences with our listeners. And this was really great, I think, for anybody who can go back to this and listen to it again if they're questioning about, going back to medical school or any new path, whether it's involving osteopathic medicine or not. For our listeners, we hope today's discussion will remind you that there's no single timeline or pathway into osteopathic medicine, that once you're here, you're part of our family. These diverse experiences and backgrounds can become a tremendous strength in caring for patients and serving our communities. If you have any feedback on any episode ideas, please email POMA@POMA.org and be sure to subscribe to the POMA Does podcast series on your favorite podcast platform or POMA's YouTube channel. And hopefully we'll see you next time and stay healthy. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of POMA Does. Be sure to subscribe to POMA Does wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends and colleagues to tune in. Learn more about osteopathic medicine and POMA on our webpage, www.poma.org, and join the conversation on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Or email us at poma@poma.org. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time for another edition of POMA Does.